So welcome to this week's Sail from Home session. This evening we're joined by Monica and Terry, who have had a couple of pretty wild adventures in their narrowboat and the Phyllis May. We're going to be exploring those this evening and finding out a little bit more about what they've been up to. So welcome along to both of you. How are you doing?
Well, thank you.
Still around.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, I've been a fan of your books for a while. I read the first one, Narrow Dog to Carcassonne, a number of years ago, and managed to miss the point completely that you've got a couple more books. So I'm really excited about talking to you this evening, and I've got to know lots of people are in lockdown, thinking about doing things differently, maybe thinking about selling up and moving on living on a boat. Can you tell us? How long did you live on your boat for, and what were the challenges, and what did you really love about living on a boat?
Well, the longest we lived on it was for 9 months in the USA, but of course, and probably about the same length of time in France.
Yes.
It's actually a narrowboat is a very easy place to live. In fact, I would choose to live on one, except I can't get my books onto it. There isn't enough room. But otherwise, I'd as soon be on a narrowboat as anywhere.
Yes, it's wonderful. And you're so close to nature that, once I was standing in the galley and watching some goldfinches on a thistle, only about 18 inches away from me. But they didn't know I was there. They just thought it was a boat. And so you get that a lot, and it's really great.
Yeah, fantastic. I guess anyone that's been lucky enough to spend time afloat has kind of experienced that, and being completely immersed, living on a boat 24/7 must be absolutely wonderful. So good.
There's only one thing with a narrowboat, of course, which is less than 7 feet across. If you want to move around, it's a bit like line dancing, Terry always says.
You live in great comfort and you live sideways.
Yes.
Yeah, I bet. You feel like a crab a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Good. And what were the challenges of living on a narrowboat, other than all of the crab antics, moving around sideways?
Well, quite honestly, once you get used to the business of driving it, which only takes 5 minutes to learn, and I think the main challenge is keeping the bloody thing going. Because like all the inventions of men, it breaks down all the time. And you're always repairing something or plugging something up or painting something or sorting something out.
And then there's the matter of the toilet arrangements. We had a pump out loo, but you have to bear in mind, when things are getting a bit full, you've got to make sure that you're going to be going somewhere where you can have a pump out. And also, of course, things like diesel. You don't want to break down and find you've run out of these things in the middle of the wilds, where you haven't got a marina or boatyard anywhere close.
But there are so many advantages in living on a narrowboat. You can drink at a different pub every night, just 6 feet away from your front door. That can't be bad. You can live wherever you want, more or less, because the network of canals is very extensive in England. You can go practically anywhere on it, and it's a very, very comfortable way to live. In fact, I find it sometimes hard to believe that people live in houses and not on boats, because the boats are really more comfortable, I think.
The first adventure of yours that I read about was this crossing of the Channel, the English Channel, in a narrowboat, and that sounds like crazy talk. So that's something I'd love to explore with you. Why on earth did you decide to cross the Channel in a narrowboat? That's where we have to start.
Yes, well, that's a question. I always find that sort of question I find very difficult, and I would say rather. To some people, why did you not decide to cross the Channel on a narrowboat? Have you any particular reason to decide not to have an adventure? Are you really going to sit at home the rest of your life not doing things, not doing exciting things? it seems to me to be natural to undertake something like that and unnatural not to.
Fantastic.
We did have an escort boat for the channel itself because a narrowboat's only got one engine and you can't risk breaking down. But once we got that organised, the day we sailed, the channel was like a mill pond, and it was absolutely wonderful. As calm, and we could have been just on a canal anywhere really.
But we spent a lot of time and trouble preparing ourselves. We knew it was risky. We were told that we would probably drown. So we thought it was very wise to undertake a lot of preparation, which we did. I mean, Monica learned to swim, and we modified the boat to some limited extent. We studied the topic in great detail, and as a result, although we sailed for thousands and thousands of miles in 2 continents, we never ever had a bad moment. We didn't have a dangerous moment, which I think Monica went overboard once, but she could swim, so that was all right. If she hadn't been able to swim, it wouldn't have been all right.
Oh, well, that happened in the marina in Stone, you know.
And in France.
Oh, well, I was hanging on to the guard rail, so I was okay.
We
I didn't fall in. Exactly.
Fitted guardrails around the top of the boat. I think preparation is very, very important. And we had a new engine.
Yeah.
And we had we took out all the risk we could. You can't take all the risk out. If there wasn't any risk, it wouldn't be an adventure, would it?
No, absolutely. And as you pointed out, as ever with boating, with being on the water, preparation is absolutely key, and completing some training as well. And can I ask, what kind of training did you complete? Was there any RYA courses? Was it a VHF course, something like that maybe?
Yeah, we learned to operate a radio. We went up to Hoylake for that. That might have been one of your courses. I can't remember.
Yes, they gave. We went on this course at Hoylake, and they gave Monica a certificate so we could use the radio, but they gave it on condition I was never allowed to use it because I was not capable of doing so.
He doesn't have that sort of mind.
No,
we have in mind for other things though. So
yeah, exactly. And we did go across for a weekend on a Dutch barge run by an English couple to receive our SEVNI certificate, which certified that we were used to canals in Europe, and we knew all about the different lights and signs and etc.
Another thing we did was got fit.
Yeah.
I mean, we were probably, training 10 miles a day, because if you're going to pitch into the canal, pitch into the middle of the channel, it's as well to be fit and strong for whatever happens, so that you're ready. And I'm sure that helped us enjoy the trip and kept us relaxed.
Oh, I think so. I mean, with a narrowboat, ours was a trad boat, so you steer standing up all the time. So obviously you've got to have some stamina.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that sounds great. Then, of course, you cruise through the French waterways. What an adventure for 9 months, you said. Which was your favourite canal? Where did you spend most of your time? Was it the Midi or somewhere else?
Well, it's a bit like blondes and brunettes, which do you prefer? I like them both, and it was like that with the canals. I suppose, in a way, it had to be the Canal de Midi because it's a bit more exotic. You get the camargue and flamingos and all that sort of thing. But I mean, the Burgundy Canal is heavenly. Beautiful. And there's nobody on it. I mean, it's empty, absolutely empty. And you've got this whole resource of 200 miles of beautiful waterway all to yourselves. It's I can't understand why more people don't do what we did, really.
Hmm. So maybe they will after hearing this. That's the thought, isn't it?
Well, we would recommend it.
Yeah. Now, we had the French adventure. You probably came home, I don't know. And then, of course, you managed to get your boat over to the US. How did you achieve that? And what was it like? What was the reaction to the boat over there? Quite different to what they're used to.
Well, the way we got it across was quite simple. We rang the geezer in Liverpool and he organised it all, so that was all right. And we were fairly fit and ready for anything because we just come back from France. So we got the boat and had it dropped into the marina at Norfolk, Virginia, and headed 1,000 miles south down to the Gulf of Mexico. The Americans rose from their graves to come and see the boat. They really loved it. They lined the quays, waving and sobbing, and there's a tradition in the south of America that surprised us, and that is the giving of gifts. Everywhere we went, people gave us gifts. Total strangers would give us gifts. People would hammer on the boat and give us a gallon of whiskey. You know, that sort of thing.
Moonshine, of course.
Moonshine, or flowers, or
lemons from their mother's garden, and roasted oysters, and all sorts of things.
Yes, buckets of oysters. I mean, I think it's Southern hospitality. It's famous, but I must say it was a bit of a surprise.
Yes, it was wonderful. They were so warm and welcoming. And it was a good thing that they were, because the American boating was much more of a challenge than crossing the Channel and going down through France, because almost the entire route on this Atlantic intracoastal waterway was tidal. And you had to keep crossing these huge sounds, 4 and 5 miles across. And so you had to learn about tides and winds and things like that, because otherwise you could have got swept out into the Atlantic. And so that was my job. While Terry was writing about our adventures, I had to sort of connect up with the marinas we stayed in and find out all about, you know, the dodgy bits and get ready for the next lap, as you might say. Yeah. But it was, I think, apart from meeting each other and having a family, it was probably the best time of our lives.
Oh yes, it was like crossing the Channel every 3 days, because you had to cross all these estuaries. Of course, all the rivers run down into the Atlantic from the American plains and everywhere, and we would be setting out time and again, and we couldn't see the other side. We were setting out, I mean, although it's not like being in the ocean, because you have barrier islands and things that break the surf down. But we certainly had to make some major crossings.
We had a GPS system, and there was a magenta line that you had to cross, and you had a little black beetle boat sitting on it, and you had to follow that very carefully. So we had this sitting on the top of the boat near the steerer position, so that we could.
More than once we set out with the little map on top of the boat. We couldn't see anything, couldn't see where we were going. I mean, we went out in fog, so you couldn't see the front of the boat, and crossed the Lake Okeechobee, you know, that big lake in the middle of Florida. We went straight across that in fog.
I mean, it sounds like once again that preparation was key to having a successful adventure. And you know, it's good to have some brilliant stories to tell. But you did your homework, didn't you? From what I can hear.
We did.
Yes. So by the time we got to America, we had a rough idea what we were doing, and we were pretty confident. So in America, we more or less learned as we went along. In any case, you couldn't learn about America when you were in England. You wouldn't.
It just wasn't like anything really, anything that we'd met at all. And when we were in Georgia, Terry mentioned we went up in a little plane. It was my 70th birthday, and we looked down on it, and it was so complicated. It was a whole maze of little waterways, and of course we'd had to navigate through all those, and you may really realise how enormous America is.
I compared the Georgia coast to a madman's jigsaw, and of islands, and we had to sort of weave our way amongst those. Another interesting thing about America was the fact that there are an awful lot of things there that can hurt you. You know, you'll be walking along and the guy says, "What's your dog?" Say, "Okay, why? Alligators?" No, panthers. He says, "Panthers." This was in Florida. I didn't know there were panthers. Then we read in the paper that there are anacondas there that can swallow a dog whole. And I mean, there were alligators. They have alligators the way we have cats and dogs. They're all over the place. They're all over the golf courses and the banks of the rivers. Alligators actually are not that aggressive, but the fish are. A guy gave me a fish on the quay and the bloody thing bit me in the hand.
Blimey. Yeah, we're back to the theme of wildlife again, aren't we? We've kind of gone full circle. I guess they were. You know,
we went for a walk in the woods over there. You know, we go for a walk in the woods, a nice friendly walk in the woods. And when we got back to the car, there was a ranger waiting there, and he said, "Where you been?" We said, "Been for a walk in the woods." He said, "You've been for a walk? You've been for a walk there?" He said, "Didn't you hear about the chiggers and the leeches and the dengue disease and the black spot and whatever?" And in fact, I woke up the next morning. I had red spots all the way up to the knees of both legs. I'd been bitten by these horrible little chigger things that were burrowing into me.
Oh no.
And that was the last time we ever set foot in a field or a wood in America. You can't do it. It's not possible.
Oh, it's been lovely to hear some of your tales, and yeah, I'm sure that others will enjoy being inspired by you as well. So, what top tips would you give somebody that's thinking about trying narrowboating, whether that be on a holiday or going biting the bullet and buying a boat and maybe deciding to liveaboard it? What would be your top tips?
I would say that it's the most comfortable living you're going to ever get, including top-class hotels. You're more comfortable on a narrowboat and easier and more relaxed than you'll ever be in your life. I'd also say that what matters if you undertake any particular voyage or adventure is allow a couple of years before you go to prepare, and because the preparation is going to be terribly important.
But I think you need not to have too grandiose a scheme in mind to begin with, because everything takes a lot longer on the English canals or anywhere really. You've got to work all the locks yourself, and you can't go very fast. And so if you're going to enjoy it, you want to allow plenty of time. And definitely, I think, hire a boat first. Don't start by buying a boat. Just try it out and see if it suits you.
And never commission a boat from a boatyard to be built for you, ever. The number of people we've seen crying into their beer because their boat was late or wrong. The way to buy a boat is to go to a boatyard where there are lots of second-hand boats, choose one that physically exists and that works and buy that, and then move on from there.
You talked about trying it on a holiday. We've got the 2-day Inland Waterways Helmsman Certificate course. So it's an RYA training course on how to steer a narrowboat, how to look after it, how to maintain it, all of those kind of good things.
I should mention we're very, very obliged to the RYA because your organisation recommended that we should get in touch with Mike Oram, who is the guy who takes the channel swimmers across. And he got us across the channel. It made a tremendous difference to us to have that sort of backup, because he came across with us with a nice accompanying boat and so on.
And we'd been in touch with a program called Water World, which was run by ITV. Doesn't exist now, and the producer and the cameraman came on Mike Oram's boat across the channel. So we've got some wonderful movie footage.
We've got an hour of television footage. They played it in the Midlands. We still get recognised in the street in the Midlands.
Yes.
So not very often, I must say.
No, not now, perhaps.
So I'm sure everyone's really enjoyed hearing some of your tales, but they're probably keen to hear more or read more. So where can people get your books?
Pretty well anywhere, I think.
This is Narrow Dog to Indian River. This is the American first one. And then the final one, which was boating in England, as far north as we could get, Narrow Dog to Wigan Pier. And you can buy them from any bookshop.
Or Amazon. If you can remember the phrase narrow dog, there are 3 narrow dog books, and they're all written by me.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, I've really enjoyed reading Narrow Dog to Carcassonne, and I need to pick up the other books as well. I'm sure other people will. It's been great to hear about your adventures and your top tips for people getting into boating and maybe thinking about buying a boat, living on a boat, whatever it might be. So thanks very much. Been a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully see you on the water sometime soon.
We've enjoyed it. Nice to meet you.